I know you have been going through a lot in your beef with Creepshow Art and Prisonmate Luke, but I'm happy Just a Robot gave you a hand and it all worked out for you. Also, your anime art is pretty sweet. You're a good artist, unlike Creepshow Art.
This guy is so fucking annoying. Antoons is a provocateur art YouTuber who's found himself the subject of various content creators' videos, including Just Stop, Daft Pina, and Creepshow Art, based off of his content that finds itself falling between the realm of offensive comedy and bigoted, hateful commentary. Today, I wanted to look back into the Antoons situation from start to finish again, because while I believe there are some things that people went too far on Antoons for, because people like Creepshow Art and Puppychan have found themselves in controversy in recent memory, Antoons has found himself a potential chance to return back to YouTube and argue that because these people were bad people, it means that what they called him out for is no longer true. He released a 2-hour video criticizing people like me, Just Stop, Hopeless Peaches, and others for our videos made on him, and tries to argue that what was said about him was misinformation, as he simultaneously spreads unresearched claims and unverified claims about the YouTubers he's talking about, becoming a source of misinformation himself while making a video where he claims everyone who's talking about him has spread misinformation. So today I thought I'd look into this video and also discuss my conversation in private with Antoons, because I spoke to him. It didn't go well, surprisingly. I mean, he's the exact type of person you'd expect him to be. Like, we were in this conversation and he argued that drawn cheese pizza might be okay if the person lived in Africa. This was going to be really interesting, so with that being said, I'd just like to give a nice little hello to the people on QB Farms who will inevitably post this video there and find some reason to get mad at me. You'll give me great entertainment, I love you. And let's get right into it.
So who's HarleyTBS anyway? Well, it's just another commentary channel who makes videos on trendy topics with little to no effort gameplay footage in the background. So just another Leafy clone, you can say. So there's nothing special about him? Well, no, not really. HarleyTBS simply became known for being trolled by John Swan during the Dream drama. That's pretty much it. He's been exposed for lying numerous times, and one of the biggest examples of that came in the form of him pretending to be Groomer to get those precious victimhood points. I mean, we've seen Puppychan's success with that.
This has to be one of the most ironic arguments he could possibly make in a video where he goes on to complain about people spreading misinformation and ill-researched claims about him. Before I argue this point, I'm gonna try and deliver this in the most deadpan way I possibly can, because I find it hard to discuss this topic without disassociating myself from it. So if I don't seem like the emotional victim, I don't know, cry more. I've spent the past week talking to Anton over this claim and asking him to remove this singular point from his video, or at least make efforts to correct it, considering the lack of research behind this point and the clear misinformation spread within it. I provided Anton screenshots proving my groomer was aware of my age when he requested explicit images from me. I provided Anton proof my groomer had provided me money in return for explicit images. I provided Anton proof my groomer had asked for and received explicit images from me under his own admission, and I provided Anton proof my groomer had admitted to unintentionally grooming me. His response was that my groomer couldn't be a groomer because they were not 18. This is obviously untrue. As cited by the NSPCC, anybody can be a groomer, no matter age, gender, or race. Anton would then go on to argue that he couldn't be at fault because my groomer was autistic. I don't know where this dude gets his information, but this is irrelevant because grooming can be intentional or unintentional, and I never named the party, so there would be no damage towards them regardless. But furthermore, autism rarely causes slower intelligence, and is often a disorder that only affects social aspects of a person. Alongside that, in most cases, autistic people know right from wrong, will be punished criminally for their actions, and my groomer themselves was acknowledging what they were doing was wrong when they were doing these acts. He would then argue, and I cannot believe I can say this, that cheese pizza is only illegal when an adult is involved. I don't think he knows what cheese pizza is. He would say it wasn't illegal because I consented to sharing these images. Fun fact, 12 is not the age of consent, alongside the fact that the age of consent and the age where it's legal to distribute and receive these types of images is 18. These are completely separate laws, and it is both illegal in the US and the UK to possess these images. Anton would then go full victim blamer and say it was the 12-year-old's fault because they should have known better. How willing is this dude to defend this and just not cut this small section of the video out because it was clearly poorly researched and he needs to do more research before making a claim like that? Who knows? But it's still in there. Now, I could play his game and go full character attack and be like, who's surprised this dude defended Cosmodor? But I feel his actions speak for themselves. Someone who was so uneducated on this topic, willing to defend anything this extreme if it benefits his video, and his lack of research into my experience before claiming I lied about being groomed, all speak volumes about his character. The hypocrisy of him complaining complaining about others spreading misinformation about him while spreading misinformation about them, and his unwillingness to take accountability and correct misinformation within his video.
And then there's this famous clip where Harley talks about lolicon.
I won't even bother to play the clip. I've argued this point so many times now that people already know what I'm gonna say, and it seems pointless of me to even argue it in this capacity. But for those who are uninitiated, this claim was made back in the Prison Mate Luke video, where he made this claim as an attempt to character attack me. In a video I made a long time ago, I said that I believe that while lolicon is bad, I don't think it should be considered the same as cheese pizza, because one is a real child, one is fictional, and while both are wrong, there should be a distinction and difference. This was something that I argued really poorly. Really poor video. I don't agree with what I said within it, and I've taken back those words a million times since I said them 2 years ago, and genuinely regret them. It's a video that was up for a day, and I took it down. For Antoons to bring this up is simply an attempt to character attack me, and I'm not gonna waste my time giving him the pleasure of arguing about it, or trying to win your favor over it. It's a mistake that I made, and I don't agree with. If you don't support me knowing that, fine. A few times where he's made comics, including jokes about Black Lives Matter. He made a video about COVID-19. A lot of culturally offensive jokes, which, you know, edgy, yeah. But some of these jokes, I think, go way too far in their tone. So he made a few, to say the least a few, Black Lives Matter jokes where he would satirize Black Lives Matter, which is a bit of a yikes. Made a few memes about virtue signaling, which is a bit of a yikes. So
Okay, Harley, no elaboration?
water. And it's a bit of a yikes, to say the least.
How many times do you say yikes in your video, Harley?
There's one thing I can say to that. Yikes. If there's one thing he's right about in this whole video, it's that I do say that too much. And also, that my original videos weren't the best. I relied too much on emotion and didn't really just present new information to the table that would otherwise influence the opinion of an audience on this situation. As such, I decided I would just use this video to achieve the goal I intended to achieve with those original videos, and call out Antoons for many of these comics in a way that more accurately reflects my opinion. Antoons is a provocateur who takes his jokes too far. For example, Antoons created a tragic comic about the late death of George Floyd to propagate an anti-mask political agenda during the political unrest that took place when that tragedy occurred, bandwagoning on this tragic racially motivated death to further his ideology with no respect for the tragedy that took place. And while not outright racist, it speaks volumes that he chose this specific tragedy as the cornerstone for his anti-mask point, when as far as I'm aware, he's never made a comic in this capacity about a tragedy like this before. Antoons also consistently creates comics that propagate the idea that the BLM movement is used to give people of color a pass, so to speak, to get away with anything based on their race, instead of the more accurate reflection of the movement as a way of reforming society to be more inclusive and equal towards those groups. These comics show a fractured portrayal of reality, used only to push hateful imagery under the guise of comedy to get hate clicks and garner attention through outrage clicks. Alongside this, Antoons also frequently infantilizes arguments against his racially insensitive comics by using the justification of having a quote-unquote black friend, satirizing the group attacking him by giving them a shocked reaction, saying that he can't have a black friend, which is something no person living in society ever says. This doesn't debunk any claim against him being racist. Obviously, this is a complete fallacy and means fuck all when it comes to whether someone is racist or not. It's comparable to arguing you aren't sexist because you have a sister, and it should go without saying that you can have hateful views and still be friends with people of a certain race. Heck, they may even hold those views as well. That's not to mention you might not present these views to that person, and obviously, associating with someone doesn't give you a seal of approval to say whatever you want. That person is one individual, not an entire group of millions to billions. If one person agrees with anything you said, that isn't a get out of jail free card in any capacity in any situation, unless that person is a judge, in which case they are the one person that can give you a get out of jail free card, if we're speaking literally. And if your first response is to tokenize your black friend, that's a big red flag. Though I will be fair and say there is no way to disprove a negative. It is impossible to prove yourself not racist. Equally as controversial are Antoon's more frequent transphobic comics. These comics rely on the suicide rate of trans people for the punchline. That's it. That's the joke every time, over and over and over. He'll often depict a trans person dealing with struggles, try to present it as if society being more inclusive of trans people is the problem, and then depict them taking their life or a tombstone with their name on it. These are unoriginal, bland, and attempt to offend people based on insults that everyone's heard a million times. They seep unbridled prejudice from this grown man to this group of people based solely on his lack of education and lack of empathy. Antoon's biggest sin, though, is that he just isn't funny. These comics are the most boring, unoriginal, uninspired, poorly drawn, cringy comics I've ever seen pushing these messages. I mean, even Stone Toss is more funny, and that's not really a hard bar to achieve. If you're going to make provocative comics, at least try and make them good, where you should find people angry and laughing at these comics in turn. I find myself sat straight-faced knowing a 33-year-old man sat in his bedroom, draws My Little Pony character death scenes in his free time to earn his paycheck, and then loads up Twitter and angrily starts sketching a shoddy political comic about how he hates trans people and people of color, allegedly, instead of going outside once in a while and realizing the internet really isn't everything. I mean, this dude spent the past 9 months crying himself to sleep because of my videos I made about him, to the point where he spent those 9 months making this damn 2-hour video just so he could call me a clout chaser and regurgitate points from other more successful, more entertaining YouTubers in hopes that he'd get an own on me from just repeating their insults towards me. It's genuinely funny to me that I got under his skin so much that he released a character attack filled video where he drudges up claims like clout chaser from prison mate Luke in hopes he can get an epic own on me for his fan base of 40-year-old basement dwelling degenerate. How are you not disappointed in yourself? Though there is one thing I'd like to correct. Antoons drew an image about me in the past where he was spanking me with a belt, something I previously labelled porn. And while I now disagree with that label, I do think it was definitely weird of this grown man to draw himself spanking kids all the time. It happened more than once and it definitely wasn't a normal thing for people to do. But I was in the wrong for calling it porn. I feel I went too far with that and dragged it out a little bit too much. Though I would like to discuss a conversation with Antoons where we discussed a fan of his produced a art piece of sexual intercourse between me and another YouTuber in graphic uncensored detail following his spanking art piece, which I feel is obviously related. Antoons labelled that art legal within his video and basically defended it. I corrected that, stating the age where you could draw something like this of someone is 18 and digitally produced content like this is illegal in the UK and the US, to which Antoons tried to defend them by saying it could be fine if they were in a different country or culture. Jesus Christ. Again, is anyone surprised this dude defended Cosmodor? I obviously said that means nothing because I'm talking from a moral perspective, not a legal one, which means my opinion is perfectly valid and I'm allowed to think it is wrong to draw porn of kids. And he called me xenophobic. He called me fucking xenophobic. I don't think this dude knows anything about politics because that's not what xenophobia means. Obviously, I said, you're crazy, and he said I have the right to be triggered about this. I said if he was okay with drawing children, that's a him problem, and when I highlighted this to him, he told me I need to think about the important things, like what if the artist was in Africa? Oh boy. This dude doesn't deserve my time. He's crazy. He's so dumb. It's like arguing with a baby about politics. It's stupid. He understands nothing. There was a point in his video where he talks about critical race theory and says it's something new. Some of these jokes, I think, go way too far in their tone. So he made a few, to say the least a few, Black Lives Matter jokes where he would satirize Black Lives Matter, which is a bit of a yike.
Surprised how badly the BLM propaganda has damaged the young minds. Most of them do not realize this is why we now have big brain classes like critical race theory, which actually makes people more racist.
It started in the 1970s. He knows nothing. I'm done. I'm done with this dude. I've spoke to him for more hours than I'm ever gonna gain back. I've wasted my time debating with a brick wall. Thank you for watching to the end of this video. I really appreciate all of the support in this channel. If you are new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. We're almost at 100k. With that being said, don't waste your time listening to anything Antoon says. It's not worth it. I think you'd gain more from listening to Kiwi Farms posters. No hate to Kiwi Farms posters because it might be offensive to them to compare them to Antoons at this point. I'll see you next time. Peace.
Says she wanna rock with a nigga like me. I'm a stylish guy. Spend a little guap with a nigga like me. We can catch a fly. Says she wanna rock with a nigga like me.